some of the more evangelical praise music, people like that. Is your generation all of one mold? Yeah. I kind of doubt it. But different, there's a hunger in younger generations for a sense of transcendence that I think maybe boomers and even a little older have forgotten or aren't as in touch with. This deep, deep yearning for some sense of the eternal. Because things change so fast, and things are evanescent, they disappear. If you pass out the microphones,
something sparked a question with me when we were talking about putting together with our fellow Anglicans events. Are there denominations that we are unable to have dialogues with, and how are we doing with the Roman Catholic Church?
Okay. We will talk to anybody who wants to talk to us. I actually think that there is some greater possibility of constructive dialogue. We've had constructive dialogue with the Roman Catholic Church for years. We've done very finely detailed theological work about particular things in recent decades. I think Francis brings a little more fresh air, like John, the 23rd. The window's open again. And I think we may see some interesting developments, but I can't predict exactly what that's going to look like. The Episcopal Roman Catholic dialogue continues. The Anglican Roman Catholic communion-wide dialogue continues as well. But they tend to be pretty narrowly focused.
Do you believe the continuing role of our deacons should be?
I think deacons are the church's nags. Deacons are supposed to be more than a little bit obnoxious. No, I mean it. One of our bishops at the last House of Bishops meeting put it this way. He said, deacons were the church's way of institutionalizing self-criticism. Critique of the church. Critique of the church. Deacons are meant to kick us in the rear ends and get us out the door into the world to do what we're supposed to be doing. Yeah, servant ministry that doesn't take no for an answer. Like the importunate widow, pounding on the judge's door day after day after day after day. Thank you.
Now that you've been serving as presiding bishop for about 7 years, what do you see as the most important part of your role as presiding bishop?
I think it has to do with the call to continually remind every part of the church that it is not the whole of the church. That God's church is always bigger than we think it is. Yes. Yeah. Well, that's the business we're in. That's what the deacons say to us at the end of the service, right? Get up and get out. Pointed at your mouth.
I was on on an island where there are, I think, 4 or 5 churches. The vast majority of the people who live there are retirees, but there are a number of young families. And there's one church that all those families, I would say not all the families, but the majority of the families flock to, and that is a community church, which I consider non-denominational, where they have contemporary services with music. Our rector has tried very hard to draw young people into our church with some success, but this one church seems to have cornered the market on getting kids to come there. And I think it's because they want to go there and they want to have a good time. I mean, I don't think they're mutually exclusive, worshiping and having a good time. They want to sing and be with their buddies, and that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think it's important to realize that we don't have to just go trolling the market. Getting out there and discovering all the people who aren't being served. There are far more people than we can care for who have nothing, but have the yearning to be part of a community that will support and lead them beyond themselves.
We have a young man over here who would like to speak.
You've got a good head.
And I've actually been to other churches. You can crucify me for this later, but I've been to a Baptist church service and a Mormon church service because my best friend is Mormon. And I was just curious to say or see what the other church services are like. And I just wanted to say, Mormons are the longest and they drill stuff in your head, and the Baptists are just a whole bunch of preaching and singing. And amen. But being a teenager myself, I can understand where a lot of these folks are coming from when they want to get teenagers involved with the church community, and they're right when they say they want to make it enjoyable for us. Because when we walk in there and we hear someone giving a sermon, we're thinking, what are they talking about? And sometimes, like Pastor Ann over here, she relates it to ordinary day life that we can relate it to, and we understand it, so that makes us want to come back and actually learn more. Plus, there's a lot of socializing going around, which I like. As my grandma says, I'm being raised by a village. Some would consider me the village idiot.
A unique one in the village. Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope the other diocesan leadership is taking note of this member of the Diocesan Youth Council, who is a leader.
My question is really about the priesthood. Today's world is, I think, very challenging, and very challenging to be a rector or to be in any kind of leadership position as ordained clergy. And churches are struggling, that we know. There's not just about numbers, but just about how they go on. They don't just survive, but how do you keep coming through something? And in the latest, I don't have my iPad, so I can't get the exact numbers, but the latest Gallup poll was how many ministers are leaving in droves from their ministry because of being so burned out and not knowing how to go on. So my question is, what are the characteristics that are really needed for today's priests, for today's leaders?
Oh, what a wonderful question. We live in a society which means that it is us, in large part, that expects to be able to order or buy whatever we want. right? We're not terribly accustomed to living in community and sharing effectively, or to taking guidance from our neighbors. Those are anti-Christian attributes. I think that's the biggest challenge, is being deeply grounded in what it is to be a faithful Christian, grounded enough that you can stand there and take it. When people object to your way of seeing this ancient way of seeing a way to live a holy life. Not in a rude way, but in a grounded way. I think that's the most essential piece. And out of that grows an ability to deal constructively with conflict, to deal constructively with change, and help others learn to deal with change, because if you're not changing, you're dead. And that has always been true, always. How to help people see diversity as something to celebrate, because it echoes the wonder of God. And that uniformity of opinion has never been the case in the church for more than a microsecond. And it's not healthy, because it does not reflect that creative diversity of God. Right, right. Our union is in God. Yeah. And I know it's hard work, but it's also deeply rewarding to be part of a community that moves creatively into newness, into more abundant life. Hang in there.
Good afternoon, Bishop.
Good afternoon.
Wondering if you could say a couple words about the health of our seminaries.
Oh, about the health of our seminaries. Yes, some of them are healthier than others in all ways. Always. But they're not all healthy in the same ways. We are changing the way that we're educating and forming a number of our leaders in the church, and not just ordained leaders, which is, I think, an essential piece to remember. We need educated, formed lay leaders as much as we need educated, formed clergy. Seminaries are a relatively recent innovation in the church's history. In the early church, if you were going to function as a pastoral leader, you went and lived at the bishop's house.
No.
Sorry, Mary. For a couple of years. And learned what it was like to do that kind of thing. And you probably had another occupation as well, which is something we've also forgotten. That was part of the genius of the Anglo-Catholic Reformation, remembering the charism, the tradition of worker priests. We need more of those today. And that's, I think, an essential piece to your question. Less than 50% of the priests ordained each year do a traditional 3-year residential seminary formation program in an Episcopal seminary. Many go to divinity schools and universities. Many are formed in diocesan programs or regional programs that are combinations of dioceses. Because of the cost, financially and in terms of displacement, to go away for 3 years. We need that variety because we have such a variety of contexts. The healthier seminaries are responding to that need for diverse ways of forming people and the diverse needs of the church for effective lay formation and education as well. And doing it at a distance or in residential communities locally for a weekend at a time, they're adaptive.
stop. So, 1, 2, and I have the final question.
There was a time not long ago, I'm not certain that it's still current, that one of the strongest growing arms of the Episcopal Church was its Episcopal schools. I'm curious if that is still the case, what your position is on the importance of those Episcopal schools, and also thinking of seminaries, the degree to which seminaries are emphasizing the importance of school chaplaincy.
Oh, thank you. I think Episcopal schools are an enormous gift to the wider community. You know that Episcopal schools rarely have a majority of students who are Episcopalian. But it is our evangelism to the world, to form thoughtful leaders who deal creatively with diversity and tension, difference of opinion. That's one of the greatest things that Episcopal schools can do, producing leaders of many different faith traditions. I wish we had way more. They are expensive. There are few parts of the church that have the ability to start new ones because of that issue of finance. I'm seeing a growing number of preschools and